Sir.
Aren't there like legitimate positions within Judaism that Islam isn't, but Azara? Like Rambam says that like Jews are allowed to pray in the mosque.
Yeah. So what the Rambam was saying there is that it doesn't have any icons. Like a shul doesn't have anything like a Catholic church in it or a Calvinist church. Doesn't have any idols in it. It doesn't mean that it's not a foreign religion. In fact, I just happen to have it open to the page here where the Rambam is being quoted. He was asked by the people in Yemen, and this is relevant now because a couple weeks ago, the last remaining elderly Jews in Yemen, 136 of them or something, were told to either convert to Islam or get out. This was 2 weeks ago. I don't know what happened to them. I haven't heard whether Israel came and got them or they're still there, forcibly being made to make a decision. So they were writing to the Rambam, who is Maimonides, known as one of the leading Gedolim of the generation. So are we allowed to convert openly, outwardly, but really in secret practice Judaism? And he said, no. If it comes down to you have to give your life rather than do that. And he said, we do not allow them, meaning he's talking about the mitzvah of allowing non-Jews to live in Eretz Yisrael. And so the non-Jews that are living in Eretz Yisrael, he says, this is a quote directly from the Rambam. If you want to write down the source, you can look it up yourself. It's in Hilchos Malachim, the last book of the whole 14-volume Yad HaChazaka, the 10th chapter, the 9th halacha. He says, we do not allow them to create new religions or new mitzvot for themselves of their own invention. Rather, the non-Jew must either become a convert to Judaism and accept all the mitzvahs, or remain as a non-Jew with his own doctrines, the 7 mitzvahs b'nei Noach, and neither add to them or subtract from them if they want to live in Eretz Yisrael. In other words, they have to recognize the fact that Hashem rules the world, and specifically Eretz Yisrael, and they have to realize that they're commanded through the Torah, Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, even though Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach was commanded to them from the time of Noach after the flood. But once the Torah was re-given on Mount Sinai, they're supposed to come to the recognition that it's like the commandments were not just the Torah commanded to us, but now Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach is recommanded to the world, to them through the Torah. So if they say that the Torah is not true, or they say that there's other religions besides themselves, they're not allowed to live in Eretz Yisrael because they're rebelling against what Hashem commanded them in the Torah, the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach.
Can I just ask one question on that?
Sure.
The problem that I kind of have, just coming from like a very modern Orthodox perspective, which like I know that like what Rav Soloveitchik talked about a lot and what like Rav Schachter talks about, is like specifically by like Ger Toshav only applies at a time when we do have a Sanhedrin, you know, running Israel.
And Yovel, in effect,
yeah, and the
Shvatim living on their nachalot.
Tribes.
Right.
And the problem, at least from like, I guess like Rav Soloveitchik's point of view, because I've read a lot of his work, is that he was never convinced that like, even that this is like the Chalta de Geula. And like he wasn't opposed to the state of Israel. He was actually pro-Israel. You know, he almost accepted to be the chief rabbi of Israel at one point. But he also didn't kind of put all his cards in. This is like the beginning of the redemption, and like we have to like act full force. It was kind of like we know that like living in America or living in Israel, we're obligated to keep the Torah, but like all the kind of mitzvot specifically on Israel, you know, obviously not Truma and Meiser, but you know, bigger kind of communal mitzvot, like we're gonna kind of like hold off on because like we're not sure yet.
No, that wasn't the reason. The reason is like Shemitah and Yovel. The reason we don't keep those mitzvot are because we don't have the majority of the Jewish people living in Eretz Yisrael from around the world. Then those mitzvahs, as soon as that happens, as soon as we can determine that the majority of Klal Yisrael living in Eretz Yisrael as opposed to anywhere else in the world, then all these mitzvahs will become deraisa, whether it's the Geula time or it's not the Geula time, to people's opinions. These are going to be Torah laws that Jews are living in Eretz Yisrael. The Torah is never been on a timeout, on a pause that, well, we have a different government now, so we don't have to keep the Torah. No, the Torah, Hashem obligates us to keep the Torah. In fact, He obligates us to be in Eretz Yisrael. It's not just our right to be in Eretz Yisrael, which is something I wanted to talk about today. It's our obligation to be there in Eretz Yisrael because that's where we can fulfill the mitzvahs the best.
An obligation now or an obligation?
Always has been. Always has been. But getting back to the Satmar thing, so the idea that we should work actively with our enemies to take the land of Israel out of the hands of the Jewish people running it right now, for the sake of giving it to the non-Jews of the world, in order to wait for Mashiach, it's a bloodbath waiting to happen if that would ever happen. And the only way out, now that we've done this, and Rabbi Kana had many ways of proving that it is the Schalta de Gula, but I didn't come here today necessarily to get into that. If you want to, I'm more than willing. But I came here to say a few things on a more introductory nature that will, I think, be a lot of benefit to everybody here. But just to finish that thought, so the Satmar, it's basically fear of the goyim. We're afraid to close a church for what the Vatican will do in Israel, I'm saying. And we're afraid to cause a mosque because of what the Arabs will do. So then we think the best thing to do, they think the best thing to do is everybody leave Israel or just give it back and live there under Goyish government again. And I think that's naive at best because it's going to lead to a bloodbath of Jews. So how can you be for a position that leads to the death of thousands, hundreds of thousands of Jews? So obviously the only way out now is to find some courage and stand up and believe that if we do the mitzvahs of Hashem, whatever they are, whatever objectively we can prove from the Torah is a mitzvah d'oraisa and a mitzvah d'Rabbanan, then we will have Hashem's siyata d'shmaya. If we trust and have faith to implement the mitzvahs of the Torah, nothing will happen to us. Hashem will come to our aid, no different than He came to Yoshua and Moshe Rabbeinu's aid, no different than when He came to David HaMelech, no different than He came to the Chashmonoim. We are their descendants. We are the Torah Jews of the world, and the whole Jewish people have to be inspired by, it doesn't matter how few we are. If the few Jews that are Torah Jews are keeping Torah properly with the right amount of faith and trust in God, there is nothing to stop us. The Chashmonoim were 12 when they started a rebellion that became the Hanukkah story, and we reclaimed the second Beis Hamikdash back from Greek Hellenist takeover. Your hand was up? You had something else?
Yeah, you addressed my question.
Oh, okay. So let me just back up. If I ask you guys a question, why did Hashem give us the Torah? What would you say? What's the Torah about? What's the purpose?
Because we were the only people willing to accept it.
No, okay, but why does Hashem want the Torah to be in the world? What does it do for the world? What is His mindset of why He wanted the whole world to receive the Torah, but because nobody would, only we received it? What's the purpose of the Torah? I'm sorry?
To live a meaningful life.
Okay.
Meaningful.
Okay, yeah, a meaningful, or anybody else? Yeah, that's right. Hashem's will for what He created mankind and to the knowledge of how to live according to the way He had in mind when He created us. It's like the manual, it's like the blueprint to the world of how to use the world He created and how to live in His world that He created, and His will of what mankind should be about, what we should be seeking, what we should be thinking about, what we should be striving for as human beings. And so then therefore that's important. He wanted this whole group from Avraham Avinu leading into Moshe Rabbeinu and the Am Yisrael out of Mitzrayim, at Har Sinai receiving the Torah. And then why do you think He wanted us all from that point to go into Eretz Yisrael and not just say like, okay, so some of us will go to Hawaii, some will go skiing in the Swiss Alps, but we'll keep this Torah. It's you don't have to be a good Catholic. You never have to step foot in Rome a day in your life. To be a good Muslim, you only have to go to Mecca once in your whole entire life, and you're a good Muslim. But you can live whatever you want and keep whatever tenets are these religions, and you're a wonderful, according to them, a good Christian and a good Muslim. But Judaism said we have to live in Eretz Yisrael. It mattered whether we have to, but why do you think Hashem wanted us to go right there from Har Sinai immediately, if we didn't mess up in the middle and stay there for 40 years, 11 days later after the 1 year at Har Sinai, we were going to be conquering Eretz Yisrael from the Canaanim. Why do you think that is? Why did He want that?
I have no idea.
Okay, well, because we needed a place to keep Torah where we wouldn't be surrounded and involved with the non-Jews who were totally into that generation, totally into Avodah Zarah. from one end of the world to the other, and there was nothing but paganism in the world, except for Torah Judaism. So he wanted to give us a land, and we were told we have to conquer it and get rid of all the goyim there. We can't live with them there. They have to leave in order we have an enclave for ourselves where we can practice Torah Judaism without being disturbed. We can do the mitzvahs properly, we can do them perfectly, and we won't be able to do them anywhere else in the world, even though Hashem had to exile us, and that was his will then for punishment purposes, which we can get into later, but it was his will for us never to be sent out of Eretz Yisrael if we hadn't have done the Averas that are talked about in Tanakh and in the Gemara and everywhere else that led to the first temple being destroyed and then the second base of Mikdash being destroyed. And we were therefore going to be in Eretz Yisrael where we could model to the rest of the world and make this Kiddush Hashem of what a human being is supposed to be about in this world. So that's the Ora Lagoyim that Isaiah is talking about, Yeshaya Navi is talking about, that we should model and project from Eretz Yisrael how to properly live, mankind to live on earth, what Hashem had in mind when he created us. So that's why Eretz Yisrael was so important, and most of the Sefer Devarim, but also in Parshas Mishpatim, and also all throughout Bereshis, it talks about this land, I'm giving it to you, I'm giving it to your children, and I want you to have it, and you have to get all the nations out of there, because they're going to be a thorn in your side, and they're going to be a fatal trap to you, and they're going to teach you to do their idolatry, and then I'm going to do to you what I wanted to do to them. I'm going to have to punish you, and you're going to fall away from serving me. And so therefore Eretz Yisrael became this primary thing as the vessel to hold the Jewish people that were supposed to perform for Hashem, this service to Hashem of keeping the Torah. That's what Eretz Yisrael is for, that's what the Torah is about.